Hi, my name is Katie Cruz. I'm an accountability coach for conscious women. And I would like to talk to you today about the pursuit of bliss, what this means for women in today's age, and how we can really align ourselves with our purpose and that state of bliss. First of all, I would love you to just close your eyes and cast your mind back to a time when you felt most blissful in your life. Think about the smells, the sensations, where you were, what it felt like to be in that blissful state. What if I told you right now that that blissful state was achievable each and every day? The problem is, as we grow, so many factors come in and program us to believe that we are not worthy, that we are not deserving. We are told that we are constantly supposed to sit in a state of suffering, and that pursuit of bliss becomes further and further away from us and harder to achieve. But what I've been learning and researching within myself, and everything that I have been shown, shows us that as part of the human race, we are able to contribute as much or as little as we like. We are able to generate a feeling state that we like. But unfortunately, due to all of the media that we watch and the programs that we watch on television, what we hear on the radio and the conversations we have with people are constantly generating this false reality that creates these darker, deeper feelings which keep us in a low vibrational state, which makes that pursuit of bliss nearly impossible. So today, we're going to explore the possibility for you as a conscious woman to start generating that feeling of bliss on a daily basis. And it's about letting go of all of the ideals. It's about getting out of your own way. Now, I love simplicity. I love breaking things down and making them easy and achievable. I'm an overthinker, or have been an overthinker in the past, and when I am able to really break things down and get down to the nuts and the bolts of something, it creates a path forward. And this is what the human journey really is all about. It is about our personal development. It's not about the car that we drive, the job that we're doing. It's really about us, our feelings, and how we're presenting ourselves in the world. So in order for us to be able to pursue bliss each and every day, we need to get out of our own way. We need to start dropping out of those high functioning monkey mind thought states and coming back into alignment with our truth and who we really are. So before we go into how to pursue bliss, I'd really love to talk to you about history, about who we have been, and where we could possibly go. So many conscious women, we start our journey, and the first thing we want to do is we want to learn modalities. We want to learn about shamanism. We want to learn about ceremonies. We want to learn about how to protect ourselves, how to use symbols, how to download symbols. We want to read books, and we want to know how everything's been done. We want to know where people are going, what they're achieving, how they're getting their breakthroughs. And we start to think that we're not adequate because we haven't done enough courses, we haven't learnt enough stuff. But what I think is happening now is, as we are entering this new paradigm, a lot of that old way of being is falling away. Yes, there's some really interesting stuff that we need to learn about the women of the past, about the men of the past, and about the modalities and about the healing methods. However, it's really now about breaking all of that down and subscribing to our own paths and our own calling. And the one thing that you will see in the past when you read about all the different lineages and the different paths that women have walked is that they have had a calling. And it is that calling that we must adhere to. It is not all of the books that we read and the modalities that we learn. And it's not about subscribing to one way of being or thinking. It is about listening to the calling within and then taking from that and doing with that what really resonates deeply with you. So for me, I think now there are a lot of modalities and healing methods that are falling away because they were built at a time when that was necessary, when a lot of the humans and the earth was at a much deeper and darker vibration. Whereas we are really moving into a new time. The vibration is raising, consciousness is raising, people are waking up everywhere. So it would only make sense that, say, a Reiki modality that came about 500 years ago, for example, of course is no longer relevant because it's built, we need things that are built on a foundation for here and for now. So when we do our research and we do our learning, which everybody needs to do, we need to read books, we need to expand our mind, we need to know where the women before us have been and what they have brought into the world. But it is no longer about subscribing and, implementing that exact same process. It is now about having the experiences for ourselves based on the world that we are living in now. So in order to pursue your bliss, you need to really listen to your heart. You need to allow yourself the space to hear your calling. Now, the Dalai Lama has said it will be the Western women that will save the world. And he also says, develop the heart. So when we start developing the heart and we start to allow our heart to dictate where we're going and what we're doing, we start to learn a lot about ourselves. And if we can let go of the shoulds and what we should be doing and subscribing to one particular healing method or one particular modality and allowing ourselves to experience something new, we are opening the door to create something new, something magical, and the pursuit of our bliss. So, for example, with shamanism. Shamanism has been a very age-old practice. There are shamans, traditional shamans all over the world that subscribe to certain ways of being. They have their ceremonies, they have their practices, they do exorcisms. There are a lot of really fascinating and interesting elements that we can learn from in shamanism. However, I believe applying a lot of that into our modern day life, it's just not relevant. So, for example, protection. As we are moving now into higher vibrational states and we are moving away from the separation, to subscribe to protection of ourselves from something else would only then lean into the whole concept that we are not one, that we are separate. So therefore, moving forward, that concept of shamanism is no longer relevant. So I feel and believe within my soul that more and more women are being called into their bliss, into their purpose and into service, but from a new perception, from a new perspective, from a place of recreating and redeveloping the way we need to be in order to move forward into a more blissful, constant state. So allowing yourself to have more experiences, letting go of the rules and regulation, read the books, learn the modalities, but then they must become your own. It is the intention in which something is delivered that ultimately will dictate the outcome. So regardless of whether you're doing a healing with a triangle symbol or a circular symbol or whatever symbol or method that you're subscribing to, it is the intention of the practitioner that is going to ultimately create the space for that person to choose to step into that healing. So the more that we as conscious women can start stepping into that experimental phase, into that place of our calling and starting to allow ourselves to have those experiences based on what is being guided through us, we will rewrite the way of being. We will get rid of all of these individual secular modalities that create separation. You know, my Reiki is better than your Reiki. These symbols mean this versus this. we no longer need all of that individual stuff. Yes, it's fun. Yes, it's fascinating. And at times we need it, but only to elevate us to the next level so that we can deepen into our spiritual journey. There are no ordinary moments. There is nothing that is not spiritual. So the more you can lean into the miracle of each moment and experience the sensations and the feelings and allow yourself to acknowledge what's coming up in your subconscious mind, in the human monkey mind that's telling you that you're not good enough. If you can let that go and really start to deepen into the lessons and the calling, we then open up the door to creating a new place of being from a much higher vibrating blissful state. So it's that self-exploration. Self-exploration, I cannot press upon you enough to start to lean into who you are in this world, to what your body, your human body is trying to tell you. You know, we've got so many diets now that vegetarian, vegan, paleo, primal alternative, you know, all of these different things. And it's like, why is it that it works so well for so many different people, these extreme diets? And I don't mean extreme diets in that the diets are extreme. I just mean that when somebody follows that method, it's not the food, it's the intention of the person that is holding as they go to eat that food, as they go to make their meals. They just want to be the greatest version of themselves. They just want to be blissful and happy. So of course, if you are creating a meal, if you are setting out a daily meal plan for the food that you want to eat with the intention that it's going to make you the greatest version of you, well, of course that food, regardless of whether you're a vegetarian, a vegan, or a caveman eating meat all day, you're going to get the same result. So we really are aligning now to a different way of thinking where it's not about so much subscribing to one particular modality, one particular lifestyle, one particular religion. It is now about wiping the table clean of a lot of the rules, a lot of the regulations, and moving into what feels best for me. What is it that how am I going to breathe that's going to be the best for me? What is it that I'm going to eat today that's going to make me the greatest and best version of myself, ultimately resulting in a more blissful state, a more blissful way of living? And it is that feeling state that ultimately that we achieve from doing these things. And the way I live may be very different to the way you live. And the way the woman down the corner lives might be very different to the way you live. But ultimately, we are all achieving the same feeling state and the same vibration. So we need to let go of the way it happens, and we need to focus on more of that feeling state and pursuing that and setting the intention for creating that blissful state. And when we decide that it is bliss that we want to pursue, we are able to attain it with ease and grace. So when we talk about intentions, and intention's a hot word out there nowadays, everybody's using it, but what does an intention versus a goal mean? So we set an intention for something. An intention is a deeper feeling state. So when you think about your daily life and what you intend to do, the conscious mind is constantly creating. The subconscious mind is constantly creating. If you are not aware what your thoughts are creating, you will just create that. And that is your intention to live, is by what's going on in your brain constantly. So if you are on automatic pilot, the intentions that you're sending out to the universe could be anything from I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, and then that's what you're going to get back. So if we can go into a more conscious state where we start being really aware about the intention, the feeling behind it that we want to create, that's when the vibration starts to really change and we start to attract into our life what we want, because we've set the intention. So a goal is just, I want to go for a 5K run. But an intention is so much deeper than that. It's, I want to go for a 5K run with ease and grace, feeling wonderful the whole time. And it is about really leaning into the feeling state, really leaning into the experience and the outcome. And it goes so much beyond just setting a goal. So intention is deepening into that human journey, but going through the feeling states and creating a place where we are able to accomplish so much more. So when we are looking at, the pursuit of bliss and that journey of self-exploration, we want to set the intention ultimately of what we want to achieve, and that is the greatest version of ourselves. We cannot be rigid in that we're going to achieve it in this way, in this manner, with this much money. But once we can lean into, I want to be the greatest version of myself, I'd like to pursue bliss, and I'd like to be open for what the journey is going to teach me along the way. And this is where, as conscious women, if we can start going ourselves and leading our peers and our children, we are able to then create a space where we are able to see as humans in this human body, in this fleshy body, what we are able to achieve. And what we're seeing is there are people out there now that are doing just this. For example, Wim Hof. If you haven't heard of him, he is a gentleman overseas, Polish, I believe, and his teacher is the cold. So he does breathing techniques where he then can immerse himself into ice cold water for up to 45 minutes. He's trekked up Everest in a pair of shorts. And what he's showing us is that our human body, our physical human body, is capable of so much more than we ever realized, because he has been able to connect deeply with himself and able to go into nature and experiment. What can my body handle? What can my mind handle? What can the elements teach me about myself? He didn't sit at home and read a book. He read lots of books, but he put them down and he went outside and he opened his heart and his mind to what he could possibly learn about himself. He is now rewriting science books about being able to utilize aspects of our body that we thought we weren't, that were involuntary systems. He is showing that the human body is able to go further beyond what we ever imagined. Joe Dispenza is showing us that our mind is actually very plasticine-like, in that it can be molded and shaped and changed, that we are not born being a particular way, that we can actually change our personality, we can change our mind very quickly by doing repetitive habits that are set up for our greatest self. So in the pursuit of bliss, we want to start letting go of the way we think we should be. We want to start letting go of models that were based on systems and times that are no longer serving us. We want to start looking at, are we in love or are we in fear? It is simply that black and white. Coming back to this attitude of simplicity, is self-assessing. What is right for me? Do I need to go and learn Reiki, or do I just need to trust that if I place my hands on myself or somebody else, that something magical and wonderful will happen? If I have conversations with people, that we will be able to open our minds and start to look at where we are potentially holding ourselves back versus being able to step out and create something new. And as we are able to lean into that, able to lean into who we could possibly be, spending our time in a creation mode instead of a destruction mode, being able to really look at, what can I achieve if I try this, if I change my breath, if I stretch my body, if I change my food, if I swim in cold water, if I swim in hot water. There is so much available to us through the experience of life. And it is about getting out of our own way. It is about letting go of all of the thoughts that constantly run through our mind that are trying to take us away from our greatest self. It is the calling that is the most important aspect of you. It is the moments where you can come into your heart and listen to that inner guidance without doubt, connecting deeply within ourselves. We are moving away from the old way. We are moving into a way where it is becoming simple. It is about connection. It is about the calling. It is about doing what it is that you feel you really need to do in the moment, not with a sense of urgency. A sense of urgency means we've moved into a more manic survival way of thinking. When we are in that sense and that place of knowing that this is what I need to do for myself in this moment, not depending on what the books say, not what I learned at a course last year, what I feel I need to do for myself right now. It is when we are in those moments that we are rewriting who we are and how we should be. When we spend more times doing this, we are then able to sit in a state of bliss because we are in alignment with our soul. We are in alignment with our purpose. And ultimately, that's it. That is the human journey. It is in the pursuit of the greatest version of you. Yes, there are struggles. Yes, there are limiting beliefs. But it is the challenge to step outside of that. To step outside of your comfort zone and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's just that we constantly create in our mind that we think it's supposed to be all, beautiful moments of meditation, euphoric, mystic experiences, and everything is wonderful. But what if we took away that judgment? What if we could lean into those uncomfortable experiences and find beauty within those? It is then that we rewrite who we are and who we are supposed to be. And we rise our vibration and we allow ourselves even greater opportunities. And when we start to explore this blissful place and you start to do the work and you start to see that you have got more moments within each day where you are holding on to that blissful state, you start to realize that it is only the constructs of your mind that have kept you in those places of suffering, those places of not good enough, of lack, of surviving instead of thriving. So you realize that, our minds have kept us trapped in this narrow, compressed way of living. So when we start to really move into a place of experimenting and feeling and allowing ourselves to just flow and be fluid with what life is calling us to do, we open up the possibility of living in our bliss. But not only that, taking our bliss to new levels and asking ourselves, how much better could it get than this? If this is what I can create by letting go of the fear, letting go of what my mind has been trying to suppress within me, and allowing my heart to speak to me and take me there, well, it could get better and better. So I believe that as women today, we're rewriting the books. We are turning modalities on their head. We are squashing modalities that no longer serve. And we are opening the door for a path into superhuman living, of taking our bodies above and beyond what they have ever done before, about deepening into the journey of what are the possibilities that we can create. So I challenge you now, as we did at the beginning, to close your eyes and go into that blissful state. And just start to imagine, what if I could live life in that blissful state? Instantly, you will notice the thoughts that come up. You can't do that. That's not possible. How would you do it? You need more money. You're going to have to move. And that is the ego, the human brain, instantly coming in to tell you that it's not possible. So in each and every moment of the day, you have a choice to lean into that blissful state and to start one by one eliminating those limiting beliefs, those fears that consciously come up and say, you can't do this, and become of service to yourself and service to generating that place of bliss. Because when we are in a place of bliss, that spills out into our community, into the people around us. So the pursuit of bliss is so important, not only for us, but for the greater community, to show people and lead people into a place of being the greatest version of themselves. So I challenge you from today forward to start really questioning why you're doing what you're doing, why you're putting pressure on yourself to learn a particular modality, read a particular book. If it's calling you, then do it. But if it's not, don't. Follow your bliss. Pursue it. Experience it. Experiment with it. And there is no wrong experience. Everything is part of the journey to teach you something about yourself, to show you where your limitations are and how to potentially push through them. So I invite you now to look at what possibly could bring you bliss, what doesn't bring you bliss, and what you're prepared to let go of. And get out there and have an experience. Experiment with the world, experiment with your breath, your body, the way it moves, what you're eating, how you're speaking to people, and write your own story. Thank you. I'm Katie Cruz.